This is Friday, 3 p.m., connecting with college students where you are, Kevin Borchers and Betsy Dodgers.
All right.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kevin Borchers. I'm the Director of Church Relations at Concordia University, Chicago.
And I'm Betsy Karkin. I'm the university, Debbie just gave me a weird look. And she's like, no, you're not. Sorry. I'm Betsy Dodgers, formerly Karkin, recently. And I'm the university deaconess at Concordia, Chicago. I also work in our Office of Church Relations. It's okay, you can be like, thankfully don't come into the front. And I work in the Office of Church Relations, Director of Ministry Strategies with Kevin.
Yep. So anyway, what we want to do is have a little bit of time, rather than having you all tell us who you are, we're going to put you into a couple groups and let you introduce yourselves. We're not going to be talking heads today. We're actually going to be facilitating you to do some talking as well. It's 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. And so we want to make sure that you are talking and sharing ideas because that's where we're going to grow, as well as we'll share some stuff too. So to do that, we just want to have you get together in groups of 3 or 4. Okay, do it on your own. I'm not going to try to tell you how to do that.
Everybody's eyeing everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So get together with 3 or 4, or 2 or 3 other people, so that we have totals of 3 or 4, and then we're going to give you about 4 minutes to introduce yourselves to everybody. Make sure you cover your name, how and where you are, and what do you hope to get from today.
Up here.
Or form a twosome or whatever.
5, 3, there we go.
I'm Jeff.
Wake up right about now. I am the small group over there.
You want to join that group over there, Jeremiah?
No.
And we're going to be doing all these introductions there. Okay.
Just don't let it go out tonight. Just touch it. Just touch it. Kenzie's leading that.
Yeah. She was the person directing everybody.
Is that the spiritual life thing?
It was like everybody. It was a big event. It was an event on campus. Oh yeah. It's called Know Your Neighbor. We called it befriending. Basically, like freshmen were down there. I feel like that group over there is going to be once they're all quieted down.
Yeah, very little competition. Yeah, 26,000.
I would also about 15 minutes, 20 minutes more. What should go around more? We're going to go about 1 more minute, so make sure everybody gets through.
Is that the cottage?
No, it's its own college. Well, actually, it's a community conference.
Hopefully,
The church is like our church building, and then it's like right across the next property.
About 20 seconds.
All right. Let me go back to that other screen real quick. So I'm just going to say real quick, this is a picture of an event that we have on our campus every year called Know Your Neighbor. It's basically speed dating, but we call it speed friending for students. And so it's a great opportunity for our freshman students to get to know the upperclassmen and try to make connections right away. So anyway, so now we're going to do a little bit of a transition. We want to get a sense of what college campus ministry is like for each of you and your congregation. So show of hands, and you can put your hands up for multiple ones of these. Is your college student ministry, how many of you have sons and daughters of your congregation away from home that you're caring for in some way? Okay, so a good number of people who have people in their congregation. For some churches, that's the majority. They're not near a university. They don't have a bunch of college students walking in, so they're taking care of their college students who have left. Okay, next. So, how many of you have a congregation or ministry where you just kind of have college students showing up and you're not really doing much of anything besides they're kind of like, they come to your church, but you didn't go to their campus and table and get them to sign up or something? So you guys have a few people where you got people just kind of like showing up. That's great. My congregation is like that. We just have a lot of college students who drive 30 minutes to come to church, and they don't actually do much besides take care of them when they get there. Okay, so how many of you have or are interested in starting a campus ministry at one of your local colleges or universities?
You're in a dedicated ministry.
Okay, so quite a few of you. And then are any of you institution-based? So like, I know that I'm weird because I do campus ministry at a Concordia, but for many people, that's not your thing. But so is anybody kind of working at a university or an institution doing college ministry? Okay. Any other ways that you're, yeah, go ahead.
We're getting into doing a safe lot specifically for homeless college students that go to our local college. So
Okay,
it's
awesome.
just a different way of doing it.
Oh, neat. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm on the board of directors of the LWML, the Lutheran Women in Mission,
Okay,
and we're looking how to connect with college-age women,
okay,
what we can do, how we can tell them who we are.
okay. Yeah, so like getting them involved in your organization and caring for them. Okay, awesome. So there's quite a lot of ways that this group here interacts with college students. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to try this out. So hopefully by now many of you guys have used the QR code. If you're not familiar with it, if you have a smartphone, you can just open your phone app or your photo app, take a picture of the QR code, and then, or you can just go to slido.com and put that number in.
You actually won't need to take a picture if you've got a smartphone. The link will
Yeah,
pop right out.
yeah. So, and then just take a couple minutes to answer this question. What do you think it is that brings college students to your church? Or what do you think? Yeah,
Besides food.
that was Kevin's like
That was
test,
mine. That was my
his test
test.
answer to make sure it's
That
working.
is true, though.
Yeah,
Well, if it is, then put it in.
yeah.
Definitely true. If
Yeah.
I feed them, they come.
I believe there's an option too in Slido for you to, you can like other people's answers, but that might be in the Q&A section. I'm not sure exactly how that goes.
They're doing
You could also answer this question to be like, what is it about your congregation that you think college students would love? So what brings them to your church? to scroll that?
Yes.
Okay, good. We'll be able to make sure. I figured it would just like pop up all over the place. Okay, so we got quite a few things. Warmth of community, proximity to campus, connection, lots of connection, community, friends, family, food. We're Lutheran, close and friendly. Yeah, that Lutheran answer is for some students. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to hang out with you because I'm looking for a Lutheran church in my community.
Right.
Stuck in town due to pandemic. Okay,
That's literally how I started my group.
really?
Yeah, at our church, a bunch of the students who would have normally left to go away to school,
Okay,
they ended up staying home for another year because
Okay.
they were online.
Sure.
And so that's where we began, yeah.
okay,
And they wanted to be in person. So
Okay.
we were not on Zoom. That was like sometimes their only
Good for you.
in-person interaction.
wow. Willingness to go into hard topics. That's great. Kevin's gonna touch on that a little bit later. Invitation from the church. That's wonderful. Fun activities. Yeah, proximity to campus. That's very helpful. Cool. Okay, let's go to the next question. What do you feel is the most important thing a college student needs in a church?
Now you'll have to rescan because it's going to be a different link.
Or it might have. I think it.
It did
Yeah,
come up?
it comes up for them
Oh, okay.
automatically when we switch slides. I think. So hopefully this comes up in a word cloud, and
Here it comes.
yeah, there we go. Ooh, lots of people like community.
You can enter more than one if you want to.
Yeah.
If there's other things on there.
The gospel, good. Welcome, lots of welcoming. Relationship connections. Connection to Jesus, the family.
And if you agree with one up there, you can also add that, and it will just add the importance like a regular word cloud will do to it as well. It's interesting as we see some of these things that are up there, for example, community obviously being the big one. And like I said, we'll talk about that in a second, but things like, you know, caring adults, just another adult who cares about this person and maybe has never even met them. And then we'll talk about the importance of that. This idea of connection, a welcome feeling, someone to help them grow in faith. There's a desire that is there, and for them to do that. What that looks like varies from person to person. And sometimes the challenging part is we try to fit everybody into the same shoebox, okay? And that won't work. That's not a thing that's going to work.
All right, so we're gonna talk briefly about some research, but then we want to get into like practical stuff because this is best.
Yeah, so obviously the research, and I'm speaking from this research that was done synodical wide, starting back in 2017 and continuing all the way through 2020 up until the pandemic, so the first month of 2020. One of the top ones was relationships. They are looking for relationships, this idea of connection, community, a place where they feel like they belong. It's a normal human need that they have to have. One of the aspects that we're looking for is they're not only looking for support, they're looking for a place, and not just a place that's going to teach them, but they're also looking for places that are going to just pray with them. You mentioned, you know, I couldn't see the name because of Kristen.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I mean, there was a need that was there. You saw a need and you met it. And so one of the things that we have to start doing is we have to keep our eyes open. Too often we can get so overworked sometimes. We can get, the time factor kicks in when it comes to ministry, that we lose sight. And what I mean by that is we don't have our eyes open to the needs of those young adults that are coming into our midst. The other one, of course, we've already mentioned community involvement. Even though they're going away from home, there is a desire on the part of Christian young adults, college students, fresh out of high school or that age. They are looking to get involved. They do not want to just sit in the pew. Okay? They want to be involved in serving. If they're coming in, the one thing I remember is a young man who came into my office when I was still serving in the congregation. And he was fresh out of Northwest Christian College in Iowa. Not a Lutheran school. But he came, found our church. He was working in a corporation in our area, heard about us having a youth ministry, came in and said, I want to get involved. And we sat down, we had a conversation, and lo and behold, the guy ended up working in our youth ministry for 5 years. Even after he graduated, he stayed on. He was part of who we were and a part of our ministry that was going on. They're also looking for a place, I think I spelled that right, authenticity? Yeah, there we go. They are looking for a place that's authentic. What we're saying from that is don't change your church to try to be what you think they want. Be who you are. The more authentic you can be, the more that they can see that your congregation, individuals in that congregation, but also you as a congregation, as the body of Christ in that place, what it's about. I think, quite honestly, that's one of the things that attract college students, not only from our university, from Concordia, going to Betsy's church, but also from Wheaton College, which is right across the street from their church, is the fact they know who they are and they stick with it. Okay? They're not trying to change their worship style. They're not trying to change things. They might change times of things to meet the abilities of those college students, but they're not changing who they are in order to attract them in that way. And then obviously worship and Bible study. Go ahead.
Just a quick question on the research and where it came from and who were the people that were polled?
A number of the, a great portion of
the
the,
Christian people that
Sure.
were students that were asked.
in this case, a lot of this were LCMS students,
Okay,
LCMS young adults.
so they're part of our family already.
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
it makes a difference in terms of how we look at that in terms of whether we're targeting just LCMS Lutherans or we're talking about college students in general.
It's a both and. It's both and, because if we're, in our case, like in Betsy's case, doing ministry on campus, a lot of those students, there's a lot of different faiths that are represented.
Right, I recognize that,
Yeah.
and there would be on any college campus, so I'm just curious, the basis of this research though was from predominantly LCMS kids.
A lot of it,
Okay.
yes.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, good question. So there are students that are LCMS that are going to go away to school. They're going to want to find a church
Mhm.
that has what is familiar to them.
Mhm.
Okay, they're going to be looking for the worship. They're going to be looking for Bible study, and it might be different kinds of worship and so on. I set down that stopper here. But the ones that are not Lutheran coming in, we have to also recognize they're looking for that too. Their tradition, okay, their practice in that may be different than ours, but it might be appealing, which
Yeah.
your church is like that. So, all right, Betsy.
Sure. Okay, so the next section we're going to talk about preparing before and during times of transition. So this is a couple pictures. This is our new student involvement fair. So, come to campus, figure out what's happening, and find a home here, and then graduation. So,
They're a little older. Some of them are recognizable.
yeah, I know. Harry was just in here, and Zach is running around campus too. So, but anyway, what the purpose of this thing is just to, so when you're thinking about campus ministry, you're getting to know maybe a local campus ministry college or university, or just understanding your students who are away from home. understand what it is that they're going through as college students in times of transition. So the needs of a freshman student, for example, are going to be different from the needs of a senior. So, you know, freshmen, I joke that someday I'm just going to write a book about the life cycle of a college student, because you can sort of predict what's going to happen to them. You know, week 2, they're crying in my office because they miss their pets and their siblings and stuff like that. And then 8 weeks in, they're all stressed out because of midterms. But get to understand the needs of these students and what they're going through. And that helps in many ways to inform how you care for them, whether that's, you know, sending them a care package during finals week, or, you know, talking to a student who's about to graduate and stressed because they're not sure what they're going to do about a job or where they're going to live, different things like that. Identify what you currently do in your church that can meet their needs and celebrate that. Like Kevin said, don't try to do what you're not equipped to do, but, you know, be the church that can serve them in the way that you're equipped to. Find out what it is what are the ways that your students can get involved. Know your students at your local college. Like, almost every university has an academic calendar that you can find online, so you can figure out when classes are going to start. You can find out when their breaks are. You can figure out, like, okay, when are these college students going to start showing up in our church again, and be prepared for that. So people are on the lookout for them, ready to welcome them, ready to you know, have events and stuff like that going on. Keep in mind the fact that college students can be a little flaky, so they're very busy and they overbook themselves, and they can be sometimes unreliable, so be patient with them, but also, you know, sort of prepare for that. If, like I said, it's midterms or finals, understanding that, you know, somebody didn't show up to something or they overslept an alarm, that there's probably a lot of other things going on. So, yeah, so basically, like we said, prepare for that as you're considering ways that you can get your students involved.
So I'm going to put you back into your groups very quickly. Thank you. First thing, go ahead and talk with your group just about this first section. How are you currently staying connected with the sons and daughters of your church when they go away? What are you doing to stay connected with those students when they go away? Go ahead and jump into your group real quick.
And because we'll get into what about the people who show up at your doorstep and how to start a campus ministry. So
go ahead and share with your group again, or form a new group of 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your church has one college kid?
yeah, I know.
That's, I think we get a question, especially as a parent of 2 students who are in college, and one who's already graduated, one who's about to leave. Other than one time a year, we send our addresses into the church, and they send them and every time. Yeah, and so I think like I'm with the Fridays, they should do a better job. So we do 2 care packages a year. That's just the college kids go off.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, that's fine. Jump into a group somewhere.
I think we'll actually have some of the
Might be easier.
college counselors when they transfer.
This got 3, and this one's got 3.
A lot of them jump into
Oh, we're all volunteers. We went to every other weekend, you know,
I am absolutely, I give them the birthday, I give them some breaks.
why they don't, but sure.
you guys talk about
Yeah, you just like Google like Northwestern Academic Account, it'll pop up. Name their name, and then if I know anything about what they like,
Pretty solid data management system.
yeah. And some of them don't know where they're gonna get like in the name, you just give those to the parents.
So we have the notes
And they can do something as often as they want.
Exactly, yeah, sometimes it's birthday things.
send regular correspondence to them,
And they come.
care packages from time to time, things like that. I want to develop that more.
So his parents don't think they don't have to more than one reason. Like, we don't always do that great a job of it.
Yeah, you can just go So that's nice. There's 5 students registered with the school and just
Okay, let's,
make contributions.
what are some of the things that we came up with? Things that you're currently doing for sons and daughters of your church that are leaving? We're going to make just a real quick list.
Kendra needs to share hers, it's
Oh, okay,
awesome.
so we do adopt a young adult, and so we just started this year, and it's been amazing. We had 35 congregation members adopt 35 of our young adults, and all they said was, you have to send 2 care packages, one at Christmas, one at the end of the school semester. Here's their birth dates, here's their school count or their school break calendar. Here's what I know they like or don't like, and it's just been phenomenal to hear from the students and from the adopters, because they call them like, how's my kid doing? Do you know how my student is? And it's like, oh my gosh, they're looking forward to seeing him in the summer. It's just that personal connection, but the thing that the students have loved the most, besides the macaroni and cheese cups, are, it's a thing, I know, is the
I don't
personal
understand
notes
it,
that
but they
get.
love it.
I know, they love them. They get personal notes, and some of them get packages once a month if they want, but it's just required to do 2 packages, and it's been a phenomenal, taking that care package idea that so many of us do and just doing a little bit of a step further, and it really was no more effort on my part or anybody else's part on the staff to do that, so that's what we do.
And that's not a new idea.
Oh, yeah.
I got this kind of thing when I was an undergraduate years ago. And the best thing about it, I mean, their birthday cakes would show up. I mean, whole cakes would show up, especially during freshman year when they're new, when they're feeling that I'm away from home and this is my first birthday away from home type thing. But then the brownies and the chocolate chip
Freshman
cookies.
15, that sounds like.
Just a freshman 40. I mean, let's be really honest. Let's keep going. What's another thing that you're doing at home? Good idea. No, nobody wants to go. No, don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to speak to the fact that the first paragraph up there really opened up a thought that we've dropped the ball in this area in our parish as far as staying connected.
One of the things you asked about the research. One of the things that came out of the 2017 to 2019 research that LCMS Youth Ministry did, which I was a part of that research team. One of the things we found is that 28% of our congregations don't keep written records of young adults. We wonder why they're not there. You just brought it up. We're dropping the ball. We're dropping the ball. James.
So I'm the opposite of probably everybody in this room. I do campus ministry.
Yeah.
So when your kids are away, I'm the one who goes, hey guys, here's your second home. We do not, and not everybody's the same, but we don't demand you change your membership to us. We call them residential members and campus members. None of them. So it's a transitional thing. So you can have 2 memberships and say, yeah, I'm regular here, we care for you, we love you. Our family takes them all in and says, great. But with that said, I want to recommend a military-style solution for you. What we do, because we go to Iraq or all these different places where things don't make it to us all the time. Sometimes an airdrop and it drops into the ocean. But generally, we do care packages. So when they do, there are a lot of little, simple, cheap things to do. The cost is really in sending it out. You're spending $13 or something like that for shipping.
For a
but
box.
You get people, the young families to draw pictures. You drop hard candies in there, licorice, grandma's cookies in Ziploc bags. All kinds of things that can keep for a period of time and get shipped. And so lots of little things can go into those packages for one person. Now we had to split it amongst a couple hundred people, so cookies didn't go as far, but when you're saying to one person, that little box does a whole lot for them. So try that. You know, you don't need a whole lot of inspiration, thoughts. Get somebody to bake some cookies, get somebody else to make some cards, put it together, wrap it up, there you go.
And you were mentioning earlier about LWML. My mom's church does that. Their LWML, the ladies are the ones who take care of those care packages a lot of times. And it's just like, okay, 4 times a year or 3 times a year, they're going to pull all this stuff together from the entire congregation. It's not just the ladies. But they're the ones then, the LWML. And it could be in any other group, but it's an opportunity for the group to do those types of things. What are some other things that you're doing with your students when they go away that you're staying connected with them? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's similar, we don't really adopt them, but our elders are assigned to them, and it's not the same elder as the parents. So they have someone that's checking in with them, and whether they call them, text them, email, DM, whatever form they want to use, but we try to do that.
Sure.
As pastor, I try to message them and just touch base too.
Yeah.
But assigned elders.
Sure.
Speaking to your previous slide on involvement, when they're back from, winter break, spring break, or summer, they're involved in our congregational ministry with, leading worship as a worship team, helping us out with VBS in the summer was huge. Things like that. Yeah, we get them back involved when they're able.
And this is hard. This is very hard because when they come home, their schedules are ridiculous. The idea is just to do something, but make it something that they value. And what I mean by that, it's got to be something that's going to be important to them, that's going to cause them to say, you know what, I'm going to skip this event to come to this. Because that's the way they operate these days. That's the way everybody operates these days. There's always something better type thing. Anything else in regards to things that we can do when they leave home? I'm sorry, go ahead.
So my whole ministry, that's literally all we do is connect with the kids that are away. Like, we don't have a campus or college or anything. It's literally, our church is very generational. So that's how it started, was I noticed there's 20 college kids who are gone and away, and just parts of families, and that's all they are, is considered parts of families.
Yeah.
And so like we actually, even though now our church is going out of the Zoom phase, we still utilize all the equipment, and we actually have started taking that and doing monthly devotions on Zoom all together and in person. So the ones that are in town can come to it, but then we throw up a huge flat screen that has all the people that are at different campuses, and we'll have kids from 5 or 6 campuses on screen that are being involved. We also connected we have a ladies quilting group, who now every kid who graduates high school gets a handmade quilt from these ladies that is made from their high school t-shirts and high school stuff.
That's cool.
You were talking about that earlier.
And then also just the doing stuff from their home. I try to do spring break, winter, and summer. I sink the whole budget into activities. We do Talk Golf Christmas party.
Yep.
We do, we're doing escape room, doing spring break. We're doing just little things like that, even to the point to where I do dinners every month as a group, and even I try to make it to where, because we have a half of that are in town that are your community college and stuff like that. I know one person's coming in town, I say, hey, let's go do dinner this week. Let's just go do dinner, and it sometimes ends up, hey, 10 or 15 show up, or even that one person in this town shows up, and me and my wife can have dinner with them and make them feel
Sure. Sure. Go ahead, Jim.
One thing, and I don't mean to pick on you, but you said it many times, I want to bring this up. You guys all remember when you turned 18, I'm sure. You were big. You were the adult and you were going out to do your thing.
James.
Don't call them kids. They really are trying to find their way, and they have moved into a spot where they're adults now. They're handling their stuff, they're living on their own. That's the big thing in our ministry, especially, is that I've dropped kids from my vocabulary. They may be as old as my kids, but still, they're adults now, and they want to be treated as such. So when we go, oh, hey, we got a little children's thing for you, they're like, yeah, thanks, next. And they'll tune you up real quick. So.
It's a weird time of transition, because in many ways, you're right, they are figuring out adult life, but in many ways are also very dependent on older figures trying to like navigate this world and what does it mean to be an adult. So I agree with you, like,
Yeah.
hey, you kids these days. I do that a lot because I'm now like 20 years older than them. But it's a weird thing too, because you're like also being like, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna survive this, everybody survive, you know, like stuff like that.
Just say when they turn 18 or they graduate high school, we don't have, in most cultures, like the quinceañera, a woman or a child becomes a woman at that point. We're like, okay, you're an adult now. We don't have that same ceremony in America, in our culture. Say, oh, you're an adult now. There is no rite of passage. So yeah, that transition, and I've had this discussion with many high school students and college students, they have a hard time with it. It's like, well, I'm in this weird spot. I don't know where I am, but I know I want to be doing blank, whatever it may be. So I say when they hit 18, you just call them an adult. You can still help them. That does not remove it. But if you're going to call them something, call them by name, call them adults, call them students, but avoid the kid for certain. And still love them as best you can, because there are going to be times they might call you crying, they might be stressed out, and they need just to have you listen to them.
Yeah. Let's go to the second part. With your group, talk about what are some things that you do to help those other churches where your students are going. What are you doing to help Matt if your kids are going to Penn State?
If you're not doing it, brainstorm ideas.
Brainstorm ideas. Yeah.
I think we're all looking like, we're like.
Because all of a sudden we just realize, wait a minute, we're supposed to be doing something? Okay, how can you do that then?
I was going to also, I want to emphasize those things we didn't cover. Well, somebody said call and text them, but I wanted to re-emphasize this for them to get. And then I just want to say this one too, look at their concerts, go to their, like if you live nearby, go to their theater. And pray for them. So pray for them in your church, like in your bulletin, print out a list of your village students if there's certain schools. Just let them continue to do this, and then say before we step into that, just a couple things.
No, you're good. I think
So I was like, just understand what the director is
And so she does outreach there, tries to get them right across the street. And we're not that far from there. She will kind of
but their parents feels more than
It's like cold earlier. They had the air conditioning on, but there was like
At our church, but.
I'm going to give you about one more minute.
I know two of my three that I'm in college graduation.
for their moms. They go home, but they were definitely working on it. One did, because he's
Okay, what are some ideas, since we were a little bit hesitant to share what we were doing, what are some ideas that you came up that we could do?
As people who are involved in college ministry in college towns, just sending us the names of people that are going off to college so that we can connect with them. It's huge.
So I think a lot of the larger universities will not share those names. A lot of the smaller schools might have a database. Don't share it, but
Some schools will have a chaplain, and you can ask the chaplain, like, who are all of the kids? Well, so this is if somebody's coming, we'll get to that later. I'm jumping too far ahead, but you can ask them for a list of if they have LCMS identified students.
One of the challenges for colleges, yes, the university has all of their contact information, but FERPA laws prevent them from sharing that information. And so that's why we have to contact whoever's in charge of the ministry at those universities directly, because the university can't do that.
So, on a synod-wide basis, you have to get out the word to the churches, the congregations, that if you have a student going someplace, let the churches in that area know,
Absolutely.
because then you can contact them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
What's another one? Make sure you're sending them the names.
I was just gonna say, so sometimes college students are afraid to go into a strange place and say like, hi, I'm a college student. So even saying, hey, I'll help facilitate that. I'm gonna send an email to you and the pastor at a church that's nearby, or the youth worker or something, helping facilitate a connection so that that person or member at the congregation is looking for them when they come to school, you know, that Sunday. So helping them find a church, it can be very helpful.
And one of the things that this requires up front is that you already have a relationship either with that young adult that's going to college or with their parents. Okay, so in the local parish, you have to have that relationship with them so that they'll keep you in touch. So-and-so's thinking about transferring. Could you give them a call? They're really upset or they're really stressed over this, that type of thing. So other ideas of how you might stay in touch or how you might connect with those other ministry partners. Not just university partners, on-campus partners, but congregations that are in that area. Jermaine.
I guess it's more of a question.
Sure.
How do you let the larger church know to say, hey, I'm the church that's closest to this university. If you know of a student, send them our way. We can help you. Like, how can that information?
So I
be
don't
put
know if it exists still, but at one point LCMSU actually had a church locator on the LCMS website. Is it still?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's still
So,
active?
Like,
Okay.
if you're near a university, you can actually register yourself as an LCMSU congregation.
Yep.
And so college students, you can direct your own students, hey, go online and try to find a church that might be near your school that you're going to. Or another thing that you can do is, so this is also for like students who are sons and daughters going away, getting their contact info and getting permission to share that, being like, hey, is it okay if I contact a church near here and connect you guys? So that's helpful both for sending them care packages and also sending them to churches and campus ministries nearby.
Just to kind of wrap this one up so we keep moving along, one of the things that you can consider doing, that if your students are going to a campus that is nearby, driving distance, consider taking a road trip. A couple years ago, one of our students who grew up in Virginia, his DCE took a road trip to all the Concordias where they had students going. And the church supported this. They paid for that. It takes a little bit of budget money. But that DCE stayed in the area at a hotel and spent a day on each campus connecting with their students. And then if there were any other students at one of those universities nearby, they also touched base with them as well. So consider taking that road trip. And I'm sure the campus ministry people, the local congregations would be more than willing to help you out in some of those types of things.
I've even had students in crisis, like, have their ministry leaders at their congregation contact me and say, where's a hotel? I know you can't talk to me about this student's crisis, but we're coming to see this student. Where's a hotel that we can stay in the area? So we've even had people who were, close to our students come and tell them about that, or to take care of them. And the other thing, before we move on, that I wanted to talk about real quick, emphasizing how much students love receiving mail. So like cards, notes, like physical mail is great, even if you're not sending a full-on care package. Also just texting, emailing, calling them on occasion is super helpful. And go to, like Kevin said, if they're nearby, students that are involved in athletics or music or other like drama and stuff like that.
Go to a game.
Go to one of their like home concerts or one of their big, like if they're touring in your area, make sure you show up and say hi to them. So, sorry, there's a lot of stuff on just taking care of your own kids in your own congregation.
Sorry.
Okay, so now what do you do with the students who are coming to your church? Like how do you minister to them? So back in the small groups, you don't have to answer these questions. We're going to talk on those, but like, what are ways for you to engage college-age students who are coming to your congregation on a regular basis? So, talk for a few minutes.
Kind of already shared that with the so
Considering how close we are to the
students
or you're in a JC.
in Nashville,
We don't have
students in Painesville, which
One
is
provide food, they students come to church.
we'll invite them, members of our congregation, transportation as they need, and they come to our service. And then it's right around lunch hours, and I invite them that lunch with me and worship,
So anyway, I'll go kind of quickly through this. I'm not going to have
yeah, it's a smaller church.
Hey, great to see you. Went to church. I didn't know any others. Just went to church. No, they come here. And then sometimes they have
Didn't like it?
Just another minute.
They don't have to stay in it.
All right, let's wrap it up here. I know some of you were saying like, oh, well, we already talked about these, so some of the things we may have covered already, but what are some things for those of you who have college students showing up that you guys are doing to kind of make them feel welcome in your church community?
Well, we're in Nashville, and we have, we call them the big three, Vanderbilt, Lipscomb, and Belmont.
Okay.
3 D1 schools there, and we're like 15 minutes away, so geographically, we're blessed in that regard. And so students that attend those three We've helped arrange transportation to come to our contemporary service that ends right at the lunch hour. And then I invite them to have lunch with me on our church campus following service, and we do Bible study and lunch together.
That's awesome. Yeah. Fantastic.
Talk about student leaders.
Yeah, I serve at the University of Missouri in Columbia, and so we do some of those things too, like student lunch is big on Sunday after worship, and our students have a Wednesday gathering. But one of the really important things that we found is helpful is to invest in raising up leaders amongst our students, and so our students actually lead all of those things, and that really changed the level of participation, and I would say the consistency or the quality of participation. So we have 2 student workers that we pay to be on our staff part-time, and they help organize and lead all of those components.
To be in those leadership roles, one of my questions was, to be in a leadership role, do they have to be LCMS, or it can just be a young adult?
Yeah, it probably would depend on the particular role. On our staff, we would probably want somebody in the LCMS for sure. But there are other we also have a student organization registered on campus, and so within that, there's probably a little more leeway for some of those roles.
Sure.
Anybody else? Or Jeremiah?
And we got a small gathering of committed students who come from the University of Notre Dame to worship here at our church. We're the closest Lutheran church, so this is the one they end up coming to. And so it's a small group. There's only 4 of them. So I just coordinate with them, get all their texts, their phone numbers, and they're like, hey, is there times we can do a Bible study on campus? And so I just go on campus once a week, once every other week.
So you actually go to them?
I go to them
Yeah.
at a time that works for them.
Yeah.
And I'm young enough that still works.
You're like, it's at 9 o'clock at night?
It's 9 o'clock on Monday nights, yeah.
Oh, man,
It's
you
fun
love it.
because our board meeting's at 7,
Okay.
and I have to leave the board meeting early to go do Bible
Oh,
study.
Well, that hurts.
Man.
And it's the best way to get out of the board meeting.
I gotta go lead a Bible study.
I gotta go bring the gospel to our college students. Bye.
So we ask everybody the question now, what's the best takeaway? Schedule the young adult meeting.
James, did you have
Yeah, that's what
something?
you wrote down.
Prior to COVID, we had a really humming system going on where we had 3 leadership groups. One was registered at the campus as a registered student organization. So any event that we had scheduled on campus or needed campus approval for, they were the body for that. And then kind of events that were closer to the church and holding on, there was another student group of about 5 leaders that did that. Then we had a Wednesday worship service that was student-led with a student Bible study right afterwards. And we would recruit come February-ish, March, and say, okay, we need so many applications, had a whole vetting process and everything, and they met with a member of the student organization. And that's great once you get going. But the question has been asked a couple times, and it's just asked today too. I don't have students. How do I do this?
We're gonna get to that. So don't jump, don't, no teaser, no spoilers.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
That was my
yeah,
question.
we're gonna talk about how, if you want to start something with your local college or university, how to get to that.
Cool.
So, anybody else, any other comments or anything like that? So, just a few things that we were talking about. I mean, this is simply basically what you do with new members or, visitors to your congregation. So, keep an eye out for young adults who you don't recognize, who show up unexpectedly, and who kind of like pop in and out. Like they're here one Sunday and may not come here for another few Sundays. Just try to remember them. Try to, when they do come back, be like, hey, I remember you. Make that connection with them that I didn't just like sneak into a church and sneak out and nobody noticed me, and I have no way of connecting with those people. Don't be afraid of huddles of college students. So the first several weeks that my college students were coming to my congregation, there's like 10 of them, and they all just like stand in a group with their coffee, and it's very easy for the church to be like, oh, well, they have somebody to talk to. But don't be afraid to insert yourself into a group of college students and ask everybody their names and get to know them and ask what their majors are, what they're studying, where they're from. And then that way too, they can not just rely on socializing with their friends, but also, hey, I know, this lady who's a volunteer and she's got me teaching Sunday school. So have your students be involved in leadership, have them teach Sunday school, have them, find different ways that they can be a part of your congregation's life. Invite them out for a meal. So several people talked about food events and activities. Students love that. They especially love it when the leadership has them involved. So the leadership is saying like, hey, all the pastors want to have all the college students, out for dinner and we'll pay for it. That's really helpful. Also, just, get members, like you were talking, I think you were talking about the adopted student program. Do that for the college students in your home, like have them, or in your church, have them come over to dinner at your house, or have like a game night, because college students love games, things like that. Also, don't assume that they're coming to your church because it's LCMS. Some of them got dragged there because their roommate has a car and that's how they're going to church. So don't just be like, oh, you're Lutheran. Get to know them, get to understand that they have some questions. As Kevin mentioned, my church, well, we have students from Concordia that go there, but there's also this huge group of students from Wheaton College, which is a Reformed university, and they have a lot of questions, and so sometimes they meet separately with the pastors because the Lutheran students tend to be know-it-alls, so they answer all the catechism questions, and they're like, oh yeah, the Book of Concord and Walther and like all of these people, and the Reformed kids are like, who are you talking about? Like,
And most of them are professional church work students from Concordia going to her church, so that kind of helps too.
Okay, yeah, and then again, engage them in service and learning. So the next question, we are going to get to the campus ministry, but Kevin's going to talk real quick about
The most
about this.
difficult thing to change in your church is the church's culture. That is, and every church has a culture. Our denomination has a culture. This gathering of people here has a culture. And it's extremely difficult to change that. We are not known for being, and this came out in the LCMS Youth Ministry research, and it came from over 300 former LCMS young adults who were asked why they left the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, or why they left the Christian faith, because some of them have actually left the faith as well as a result of that. One of the top answers is our churches don't allow questions. Or there's an unwillingness to answer those questions. Or there's a definite unwillingness to allow people to have a different idea about those cultural issues. I'm not advocating for any of that. What I am advocating is this. You have to have an open heart for where those students are at if you're going to hope to be able to connect with them. They have to trust you, whether you are a pastor or a DCE or a lay person. Those students have to trust you. And that begins by changing the culture of your own heart in a lot of ways. It doesn't mean that you have to compromise where you stand. That's part of your authenticity. But how you address them and their struggle, recognize they're struggling with a lot of some of these issues. Okay? Issues of faith, issues of life. I mean, it can be as simple as, I'm thinking about asking my girlfriend to marry me. Okay? And you've only been dating for 3 weeks. Okay? You have to have a little bit of a discussion, maybe. Betsy gets to do that.
to have all sorts of fun doing that.
She has all kinds of
I love it.
conversations
It's my
in her
favorite.
office. But then you are going to get the students that are going to come on campus that are dealing with sexual identity or any of those types of issues as well. Okay? The key is do not judge them. The best tattoo I've ever seen, and some of you probably have seen, God is the only one who can judge me. And I think that's one of the things that we need to adopt, okay? Is as we're trying to reach them, as we're trying to care for them and minister to and with them, we have to equip them to do that and to live faithfully. But you earn that right. You earn that right with them. I don't know, comments, questions, or
Well,
thoughts?
I was just gonna say, and that's the thing, once you've established those relationships through food and fun and, regular interaction in your congregation, and you have that trust, being able to figure out what their burning questions are, having those relationships with them. You can even go as far as actually providing opportunities specifically to discuss those things. So this is what we do in campus ministry, but we have a local pastor come every single year, and he does this event called Sex Loving God, and he talks openly about all of those issues with students who, from gender issues to how do I remain chaste with the person that I want to marry someday, to, I'm gonna get married someday and I have no idea about sex besides what I learn on social media or the internet. So providing opportunities in your church where students can talk about difficult issues is really important. And then, again, this is just a congregational thing, but having pastoral care and spiritual counseling available, and publicizing that, especially for students that didn't grow up in the LCMS and don't know that they can go to confession and absolution or even know what that is. Having that available and kind of telling students about that, and that the fact that they can talk to you and receive spiritual care is vitally important.
Right.
Okay. So real quick, how to start a campus ministry, because I know we don't have too much time, but okay, so these are just some bullet points that we put up here for those of you who have a local college or university in your area, but feel free to throw this stuff out. So almost every university campus has a student activities office, some sort of student involvement office, and most of them have an involvement fair, some sort of event where local businesses, organizations, student groups on campus go to get people to sign up. And in most cases, and other people can correct me if I'm wrong, many congregations can sign up to do that. Or you can, if you have members of your congregation or students in your congregation who are at one of these local colleges, they can be the person to connect you with this. So we've had Lutheran churches in the area come to our campus and table and say, hey, we're just, a mile down the road. Come to our church on Sunday, we'll provide you with transportation. As you're doing that, it's very helpful to connect them right away. So when you go to the involvement fair, don't just say say, our church is here and has these worship times and Bible study and stuff like that, but connect them in a way like have a welcome back barbecue, have some sort of event, a social event on campus that you can bring them to your church and have them interact with your congregation and members. Tell them about your worship opportunities, tell them about Bible study. Do like Jeremiah, were you the one, you were saying that you go at 9 o'clock, you actually go to them. Yeah. Some congregations are like, well, we'll have a Thursday night Bible study at our church in our basement and we'll cook for you. So we'll have pizza or, food or something like that. A regular time that they can come, or just one of your regular Bible studies that you have going on throughout the week. Opportunities for fellowship, like I said, like having a barbecue or some sort of social gathering when you first get back, and then ways for them to get involved in your congregation. non-threatening invitations would be like, come to our church barbecue, not like, come to our divine service, at this time, first thing, especially if they're new and they've never been introduced to the Lutheran faith. And then removing barriers, get a group of volunteers on your campus, or sorry, I keep saying campus, but at your congregation who would be willing to pick somebody up if they don't have a car or transportation. What are the things that will get in the way of a college student being able to participate in the worship and gospel life of your college, or sorry, not college, church, your congregation?
Your church has a campus too.
Yes.
So
then, go ahead.
I think the important part is one of the biggest issues. A lot of universities, colleges, particularly smaller ones, they don't allow their freshmen to bring cars.
Yeah.
So they don't have transportation. There's a barrier. So how can you in your congregation provide these students, if they desire it, a ride to your congregation? Those are the types of barriers that we're talking about. We're not necessarily talking about all the cultural things. A lot of times it's just getting them there.
Yeah.
And those types of issues.
Yeah. One of the studies that we were reading talked about how don't assume that because they're college students that they can't wake up before noon. In fact, because students are so busy and their schedules are so crazy, early Sunday morning tends to be the time that they're most available. So don't think like, oh well, they're college students, they can only come to the 11 o'clock service. They'll come to events before 10:30 on a Sunday morning if it means that they can be involved in worship life and then go on to their athletics practice or whatever else they have going on.
Going on the don't assume, I meant to say this earlier too when Betsy brought up the issue of don't assume. Don't assume that just because they're young, they automatically are going to go to contemporary worship. Many of them are enthralled with the mysterious things. I know Betsy's church, they use the incense, and there's a lot of Roman Catholic icon type artwork and stuff, and they get excited about that just as much as they do a great band up front in many ways.
Yeah.
Again, it's going back to be authentic, be who you are in that type of situation.
Any other things that somebody wants to add? I know these are very generic, how to start a campus ministry at a local college or university, but any other things that those of you who have, James.
Yeah, the first thing
James, I just want to point out that you are like probably one of the weirdest people in this group, because I feel like everybody is either in a congregation. Is almost everybody in a congregation?
Matt,
What do
you're
you
a
mean by
campus, but you're connected to a church, right?
Like not
Yeah.
on campus?
Yours is yours is
Like our
dedicated
ministry flows out of our
campus.
congregation.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
with a community college, so.
Okay. So, but you have like you were talking about. So maybe you guys are all similar in the fact, but you are like directly called to
To
which
the
which
student
university?
Martin Luther Chapel,
Right.
and we started as a mission funded by the district. So they paid money, and that's the only way, because we didn't have residential members. Now we have residential and student or transitional members. So somebody might have a membership at your church and at ours.
Yeah.
And we consider them regular
Yeah.
members.
So you weren't like a regular congregation, and then you just started a campus ministry.
Right.
You were established as a congregation
So it
through
was at the
campus
mission
ministry.
first,
Yeah.
before the congregation.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. An important aspect too is take it back to your districts and talk. What can we do? What are the universities or colleges, community colleges, junior colleges even, that are in your area, and what can we as a district do, or what can we as a circuit do in order to do ministry with this important age group?
Apply for grants.
Yeah.
To get funding, to have those free meals on your. So James, you were saying.
Well, that is very important, contacting district, letting them know, because we often, and I do training, and the guys that I work with do training often on campus ministry, the districts need to kick in. Really, it's a great opportunity for evangelism, for reaching out God's word to everybody. It's great. But it's not viewed that way by some districts. English district, the president is huge on it, and it's very important. But one of the things I'd like to point out is to start small. Ours is established and we're rebuilding, so there's a lot of frustration, but when you start this, you're battling for time against fraternities, sports, friends. It is hard and painful, so start small. And then kind of not laser focused, but get a simple message on what is important and what you want to represent. Ours is Christ, students, community coming together. And that's what was on our website, on all of our stuff. And it starts small and then it will build.
Well, and with that start small, you know, you don't have to necessarily table at an involvement fair and say we have a big barbecue going on. You can post information about your church on most community bulletin boards. You just have to talk to the student activities office and say, hey, can I put up here that our church has these services and Bible studies, and contact this phone number, text us or something like that if you need a ride to church.
Most
So-
universities are gonna require you to get an approval to put a poster up or something like that.
Yeah.
That's easy to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. This office usually can help you to do something like that. Anybody else who's running a campus ministry? Any like pro tips about how you started or got connected with your university? I mean, did you guys have?
We reached out to all the pastors in our area and said, hey, who are the students that are coming, and started with that core group, and then from there branching out to other students too, so there's at least a core group, and then we can go onto campus and post on the bulletin board and try
We're
to get
definitely
other
gonna have to get
students in.
really good at outreach though, because we're a 2-year school, some people only go to it for
Yeah.
1 year,
Community
so.
colleges have a high turnover, so
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
doing that every year.
Yeah.
Okay.
What other things did we not discuss that you were hoping that we would talk about, or any other questions?
This is an ideal year. District conventions are this year, so this is a great time for everybody to start talking about this in their districts. I think this is important. Reaching our young adults is incredibly important, particularly considering what so many of them have lost relationally, even spiritually, as part of what's been going on with the pandemic. This is a great year for us to do that as we move out of that. Anyway, I'll stop. Questions?
I would just reiterate the importance of involving districts, and you can start small there too. One of the things that we've started in the Missouri district is a network, and so there are probably other ministries in your district that are near a campus, or other campus ministries, and so what we're trying to do is to bring that network of campus ministries together, both for equipping and encouraging the workers, but also especially developing a referral system across the district. And so our district president also is very supportive. There are some small mission grants available, and then he's really good about even using his own social media platform at those times of year, when students are being referred, to encourage congregations to do that. So just an encouragement to talk to your district folks.
Questions, sir?
And I will say, along the line of district conventions, all of the LWML have district conventions beginning in April. The April ones are probably too late, but there are a number that are in June, September, and October that may still be accepting grant applications.
Yep.
And so you can get in and possibly get a grant from those districts.
Get some funding.
And we love to support ministries wherever they are.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with reaching out through social media to reach out to the kids, like advertising Facebook or Snapchat, or do you send stuff out to the kids that are in the area?
Well, Facebook is not very
Yeah.
beneficial for us, I will say. On our campus, we actually have somebody who's in charge of social media, and unfortunately, email is a major major deal, but text messaging, students will text, and Snapchat and Instagram seem to be like the two major social media things, but and we just, I'm trying to remember what it is, we just got a new app. Students can sign up for text notifications when we have events going on. So at our involvement fair, we just say like, hey, sign up for this, and then whenever there's an event going on that week, they'll get a text, and it's limited to a certain number of characters, so it's brief enough for them to read and be like, oh, there's Bible study on Thursday night in this room. So, so that's has been really helpful for us as well.
I saw the same thing, and sometimes it's laborious to try to send text messages to that many students, right? So I saw an ad the other day that just happened to pop into my email at the university, and it was from Group. Group Publishing has a mass text messaging application now that you can. I don't know what it costs. I know there's a cost to it. But there are others of those that are out there where all you have to do is just type it. You have to spend a little bit of time to enter all of their numbers and everything in it, but then all you do is just hit send, and it's like, boom, every one of their phones gets hit.
Yeah.
Which is nice. You have to pick and choose, and it really, that's also a little bit about the culture of your students too, because some of our students know to check their emails, particularly if it's coming from Deaconess or from Pastor Jeff, our university pastor,
Yeah.
or one of our program, our church work program directors or something like that. But other than that, students don't read email.
No. I have to send
Just
them a message
forget about
telling
it.
them to read their email
Check
from me.
your
Yeah.
I've done that with my own kids.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I tell them I only use it for like big documents and attachments. The other thing is, there's several messaging apps that
WhatsApp.
GroupMe, WhatsApp, Slack. So if you have like a preset group of people, like I require our whole campus ministry team to use. I think they chose GroupMe, and I always make them, you have to like this post to prove to me that you're actually reading these messages.
Right.
And I changed it to a dinosaur because you can change it from all sorts of things. Yeah.
So just if you don't have any college students and you just want to send out a message, like I don't have text messages because I don't have any numbers of kids
Okay.
that would be in that group. But
Yeah.
I'm right across the street, so I'd really like to find a way
Yeah.
to get into the campus
Mhm.
and to reach kids that don't have any connection
Yeah.
and get them to say, through a text or Instagram, send it to the group
Yeah.
in this age group or whatever and say, hey, we're having this college group, we're gonna meet
Yep.
first time, we're gonna give you pizza,
Yeah.
let us know.
Yeah. So,
Because-
does your campus? Do they have a campus chaplain or anything like that?
No, I don't know, since I got there right before we had COVID and
Okay.
they've been shut down too.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
And it's very multicultural in
Yeah.
Honolulu, so
Okay.
it's,
Oh darn.
there aren't a lot of LCMS
Yeah.
kids there.
Yeah.
And the few that we got, were there when I got there, but 2 years, they moved on.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so when
Yep.
I come, there's nobody.
Yeah.
And since we're literally across the street to the music department.
Oh, awesome.
And so the question is, I don't have any kids to give text to.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if I have a way to connect with kids
To connect them.
that they would contact or dump back with us, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would suggest going with what James, start small and contact the student engagement office and just say, we're gonna do some pizza, come meet Kevin Borchers over there. I'm gonna dispense in my case with the title, because if I say doctor, all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, this is a faculty member or something like that type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to do that, okay? I'm just saying that might be something that I would consider doing. And just start developing a relationship with one or two, even if that's okay. And you have to be okay with just getting one or two.
And it might even involve, when you talk to the student involvement office, finding out what other groups already exist on campus, and if there's like a president of that group or something like that. Is there a generic Christian group that has already been established, that you could reach out to the student leader of it, because theoretically they should be reading an email or have some sort of contact information to be able to start with them. Does anybody else have any thoughts or ideas? Yeah.
Our college lets anybody, not just student organizations, get a table like in the cafeteria or whatever, and so we've
It's
been there.
dependent, it's like we can't go to
Well, you
the
have to get
student
it
fair
approved.
until you have 5 good standing students, but you
But
can
you
go
can
to
just
a
go
recruiter
get a
table.
table, yeah. And then, so we have like gift
Collaborate.
bags or like pizza or whatever, and then we'll talk to them and grab their numbers.
See, I have the same thing, you have to have a number of kids in your program before you can actually do anything
Yeah, yeah.
on campus.
Before you can have an official club.
Right, and
Yeah.
we're not talking official club, even before official club, they let you, some places let you just go, hey, can I just sit down at a table in a busy zone and just
Yeah,
give out gifts or?
like in a
Because they want
lunch
it.
space,
Yep.
yeah.
Employers or.
Because like the Army
Local
comes
community.
and they'll recruit students.
Exactly, yep.
Yeah,
Just
different
like
stuff like that. Or the seminary, the LCMS version
like
of the
this-
Army.
That's a good example, because you'll get in, you need to get in to do more, so it's like, you have to have money to make money. So if you can contact any faculty, you probably know who in the student center you need to talk to. And a lot of times, especially in a church, most of them will be receptive, saying, I want to help the students and let them know that we're here to support them. That opens the door a lot better than, well, I just want my students to come to my church, and it's not very close. But you say, I want to open it up to help the students, they're more than willing to let you help and support them.
Part of that, yeah, that's part of that cultural thing, because you have to provide equal access for all of those students if you're going to get access to the university campus. So.
Any other questions?
Other questions? We've got about 5 minutes left before you all go on break again, and there's more food.
I have
And
just
probably ice cream this time around again.
I have just one thing to say, and this is mostly because it's a pet project of mine. So we started a campus food pantry for all of our students. And so, there's always the joke that they're poor college students and they can survive on ramen. We don't actually let anybody get ramen to our food pantry because we're like, the whole point of food insecurity is to give them healthy food options. But, consider that too, like if you have college students, making some of their basic needs available, just because, like I said, it's a personal project of mine, but food insecurity is quite a big deal for college students nowadays, and it's one of the many factors that contribute to college dropout and stuff like that. So.
And if you're near a campus, your church could start such a pantry and just make it available to
Yeah,
students.
it's just one of many different kind of things like that you could have as an intern.
Works
It
with
doesn't qualify as completely healthy, but our church got together like some macaroni bowls and some pencils and things around finals week and gave those away as like a Christmas finals week gift.
Yeah, that's actually how we launched the food pantry. Is we had like a basic snack pack and gave it to everybody on campus and said, here, take one of these, and if you want, you can get more of where that came from. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Blessings on the rest of your week.